All right, so I picked up this gentleman out in South Miami. He's an EMT, and he just got done working an 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. shift. So he was beat, tired, and so I started talking to him. He's like 20 something, young guy, and so I go to start talking to him. I commended him about his job and for what he's doing, and and he was kind of down, just tired from the evening, and then he starts to tell me, that he got into an accident with his car and hydroplaned, and he lost his car now, so that's why he's taking the Uber rides. And so then he was just saying, and finally I just started to pray 2 days ago. I was like, oh, good, praying. All right. I said, so you go to church? He goes, well, I used to go to church, but when I was a kid. And I said, so why don't you go to church right now? And he's like, well, I just been so busy with work and everything. But, and I said, then I started telling him about me. I started giving him my testimony or God's testimony about my life. And I went in deep with him, because he's old enough for me to get deep with him about what I went through in my life. So I just told him about when I was a kid, the rape, the molestation, and the beatings and all that. And from the age of 15 all the way to the age of 21, I was just I hated the world. I hated everybody because of the things that were done to me. And but then I told him about all these different things belonging to the gangs and following the stuff that gangs did. And then that I had a moment in my life where I was inside of a car that I had stolen, and I was taking it apart. And then all of a sudden I heard a voice that says, stop what you're doing and leave, go now. And I looked around, I was like, and then went back to what I was doing. And all of a sudden I hear it again, stop what you're doing and leave now, don't ever go to it again. So that time I recognized that was God talking to me, and this is before I was a believer. But I always heard Grandma always talking about God, so I knew about God. And I did go to a private school till 5th grade. But then my mom pulled us out of the private school, put us in public so she can still collect the money from my grandmother and use it for drugs. But anyways, so I got out that car, wiped it down, took my tools, and never went back to stealing cars or any of that stuff. I wound up surfing, and so in surfing I found these amazing people that were naturalists and they loved God. And so one day I get out of the water and I'm washing off myself, and then there's a girl comes up to me and says, and she was gorgeous, she goes, do you want to talk about Jesus? And I said yes, but really I wanted her phone number, and I did remember Jesus from her grandmother, so I got her phone number, and then I wound up meeting up with her at Meisner Park with a group of other young adults. They were like a youth group. They were all meeting for a Bible study. And so I started attending Bible studies, and next thing you know, I started going to the church that I've been going to now for 29 years. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. And I said, guess what? I said, God changed my life. He rescued me out of that darkness. Totally rescued me out of that darkness, and he gave me this beautiful life. And I said, so now that church is Calvary Chapel of Fort Lauderdale. And you know what he said to me? Boom, that's the church that I went to when I was young. And so I continued to talk. He's like, man, I continued to talk to him about how God has changed my life, and it's only been for the better. I said, since you told me that you just started praying, you got to keep praying, because God will answer all of your prayers. But he will answer all of your prayers because he knows your heart, but he won't answer him at the time you want, he'll answer at the time he wants to do it. That's how amazing God is. And he was like, wow, this is so awesome. And then I said to him, and then he started talking to me. He's like, I'm so grateful that you're in my car. I mean, that I got in the car with you, because literally you've made me feel so good. You know, when I was praying before, I literally felt that the hair started rising on my arms, and I felt like something inside of me was acknowledging me and answering me. And I said, that's the Holy Spirit. And then I swear, even right now, I'm getting it right now, the goosebumps from the Holy Spirit. That, woo, the Holy Spirit was in this car, and he was getting goosebumps. I was getting the goosebumps. I mean, wow. And there was just such a wonderful conversation. And he's like, and I said, all you need to do is just get back into church. And he says, I am going to do that now. He goes, and I know that God sent you to tell me this. It's so amazing. He goes, and I've been needing this for the longest time. So, long story short, I wound up praying over him, and he was just totally happy. So that's the story that I have of this young man. And you know, I commended him for a good job, for what he was doing. He's making a big difference, and for society, and God has a really big plan for you, I told him. And just keep coming to church. I even talked to him about not having sex outside of marriage and what all that stuff meant. And just a wonderful conversation with that young man, and how happy he was about the prayers. And you know, it's just amazing. I just love this, talking to people about Jesus. Oh, and I also gave him a business card from our church for the men's ministry, so he could scan it and come. So anyways,